My books are about the Anglo-Boer War of 1899-1902 and the named weapons that were used during that war. Up until now, I've spoken mainly about the M1895 Boer Mauser rifle, which was certainly the mainstay of the Boer army, or the Boer citizen armies. It took the major part in the war and did the most damage. However, the Mauser was a Johnny-come-lately. It wasn't ordered until 1896, which was directly after the Jameson Raid and only 3 years before the war began. Before that, the Boers were certainly using a lot of other rifles and imported many Martini Henrys, as well as other rifles. I'm going to talk about two of those types today, both of which were certainly used in the Boer War, mainly at the beginning of the Boer War. What I have here is a Martini Henry rifle. It's a Mark II Martini Henry. It's a British military issue. It's 1887 and it's made by BSA Company. Being a British military rifle, obviously it was captured by a Boer at some stage of the game. Under the circumstances as to how it was captured, I do not know. But the fellow who captured the rifle has actually put his name onto the butt of the rifle. It's a fairly crude job, and if you look carefully, it's A.J. Mouton. It's M-O-U-T-O-N. You can hardly see the O. But his name is A.J. Mouton. I managed to find about 5 of these fellows. Abraham Jacobus Mouton was the name that most of them had. There were a few Cape rebels involved, and 2 of the guys were captured and sent to POW camps. The interesting thing with this rifle, apart from the name, is the fact that it's taken a very heavy hit by a heavy caliber bullet. I suggest probably a .577 or a .45 Martini. It struck the end of the butt plate, pushed the butt plate in, and grazed along the timber of the butt. You can see that quite clearly. It's a very old wound, if I can call it that, an accident, and it's well worn, and you can see that it's been there for many, many years. One wonders what the circumstances were when the bullet hit. Was the fellow riding away on his horse? Was he hiding in a trench? Was he sniping at somebody? Whatever the position was that he was in, he must have got one hell of a fright if he was holding the rifle or close to the rifle. So in addition to the graze mark, and as I said, it looks like a heavy lead bullet, there are also 2 notches in each side of the butt plate. These are man-made, purpose-made notches with a file, and I suspect that they probably killed. There's one on each side of the butt plate. So here we have it, Martini Henry rifle. The Boers had at least 40,000 of these at the outbreak of the Boer War. They were very popular. A lot of the older Boers were convinced of the hitting power of the heavy 4.5 slug and weren't too keen on this newfangled idea of a magazine rifle with a 7mm bullet. So many of the older Boers went to war with their trusted Martini Henrys. They were sighted in, they knew how to use them, they knew how they shot. And you'll see many photos of the early stages of the war where most of the men might have M1895 Mauser rifles, but a lot of the boys have still got their trusted Martini Henrys. The other rifle I'm going to talk about today was also very popular with the Boers. It was a lever action, so it was similar to the Martini Henry. It was a very easy transition to go from a Martini Henry to this rifle, which is a Portuguese Guedes or Gades. There are many pronunciations. The Boers used to call them Giddy, G-H-I-D-D-Y, a Giddy, or I call it a Guedes rifle. It's in 8x60 caliber, so it's an 8mm, as opposed to the Martini Henry, which is a 4.50, 5.77, 4.50 caliber. Basically, it's an ugly looking weapon, I think, in my opinion, but it certainly was an improvement on the Martini Henry. It was obsolete by the time the Boers bought the thing, which makes you wonder, but having said that, the Boers did like the Martini very much. They were in love with the Martini Henry. Along came this Guedes rifle, which was a smaller caliber. As I said, it could shoot further. It could shoot a lot straighter. So instantly, it was a success with the Boers. Piet Joubert, the old Commandant General, was a dedicated Martini man. It's recorded in many places that Piet Joubert was a Martini man, and he was also one of the men, the high-ranking Boers, who were reluctant to adopt the new Mauser. He was taken with this Giddies. The first 160 trial rifles were sent out in 1893. So once again, you know, that's not that long before, 6 years before the war broke out. As I said, 160 trial rifles. They did the tests, they were popular, and they placed an order. We think all in all, in total, probably about 7,500 of these rifles were ordered by the Boers. Some ended up in the Free State, but we believe that all the purchases were through the ZAR. Now, this one, I think, was possibly a trial rifle because it doesn't have the monogram on the receiver. All the Giddeys rifles that were ordered officially by the ZAR all had the manufacturer's markings on both sides of the receiver, which we'll show you. This one doesn't. It's completely plain on each side of the receiver. The gentleman who owned this was a guy called Mr. H.J. van Rooyen. He's put his name, or carved his name, quite crudely on the butt here. You'll see 3 of the letters are quite large and the others are smaller. Once again, unfortunately, there are quite a few contenders. Van Rooyen is a fairly common name in South Africa. Most of the guys were called Hermanus Jacobus or Hendrik Jacobus. They came from different areas. I cannot say exactly who this was. Another item that I can tell you about the Giddeys that you might have seen, you collectors, not all, but some of the Giddeys had ZAR stamped on the top of the action here, but not all. This one doesn't, and many that I've seen also do not have the ZAR stamp. So there we have it, another lever action rifle, very much like the Martini Henry. As you can see, it's a slightly different action. One of the good things about the Giddeys is you can look straight through the bore, which you can't do with the Martini Henry because of the type of action, the drop lever. So that's also quite an asset for cleaning your rifle and checking your bore. There we have it, Giddeys rifle used by the Boers in the early stages of the war, certainly. It lost favour when the M1895 Mauser came in. It became quite obvious that the single shot rifle was obsolete, and many of the men went to the new modern magazine 7x57 M95 Mauser. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the stories about these 2 other types of rifles that were used by the Boers during the Anglo-Boer War of 1899-1902. Thank you.